Hi, welcome back to Mr. Slover's Math. Today we're going to focus on taxes. You're going to be able to determine the tax of a purchase. So to get us ready for that, we need to first figure out how to take a percent and turn it into a decimal. So our warm-up is doing just that. And I'm giving you a hint. It says to divide your percent by 100. So for all of these, I'm literally taking this number and putting it into my calculator and dividing it by 100. Yes, there are ways to do this without using your calculator. We're just going to make it nice and easy and say just divide your percent by 100. You're not actually going to put your percent into the calculator. You're just taking the number. So 10 or 35 or 4 or 6.75. Example 1. So now that we know how to turn stuff into a percent, we can start working through example 1. It says Jess is purchasing wire and beads to make jewelry. Her total cost is $28.89 before tax. If tax is 7.25% or 7.25% of the total sales, what is her cost? So tax steps. Number 1, take your percent, divide by 100. Take your cost times the new decimal. And then step 3, round to 2 decimal places. So that's how we figure out what the tax is. In order to figure out the total cost, it says you need to add your tax to your cost. So let's work through this. First off, it says our tax is 7.25%. So right here, take our tax and turn it into what we need to. 7.25 divided by 100 is this number. Then I'm going to take the cost, which was 28.89, and times my new decimal, and I'm going to get an answer. And we're going to make sure to round it to 2 decimal places. We're talking about money, so nearest penny, right? 2 decimal places. I get 2.09. And then part B says, what is the cost with tax? So all I got to do is take my tax and I add it to what it already told me, 28.89 plus 2.09. So I get $30.98. Once again, just like we've talked about in the past, our answers should be reasonable. So if something cost $28.89, and that's before tax, with tax, it should not be, say, $100. Because that means you're spending more on taxes than you are on the actual product. And that's not what happens. That's not how taxing works. That means you did something wrong. So make sure your answers are reasonable. Here's another example, but now instead of telling you to find the tax and find the cost with tax, I'm just saying, what is your total cost that you're going to have to pay? If you buy this Blu-ray, that's $21.99, and the sales tax is 6.25. So I'm turning it in my percent into a decimal. I'm identifying my tax was $1.37, so I'm adding $1.37 to the price of the Blu-ray, which was $21.99. Here is one for eating food at Kep's. Example 4 is a little bit tricky. So it says a limo from prom costs $325 to rent for 3 hours plus 7% tax. What is the total cost to rent the limo for 4 hours? Well, what if you were to include a $20 tip? How much would it cost to rent the limo then? So there's a few different things going on here. So number 1, we need to figure out how much does it really cost per hour, because we got 4 hours. Okay, so one way we can do is find the unit rate. But since we've spent a few days on proportions, I thought maybe setting up a proportion would be beneficial, because this is a proportion word problem. So we're talking about money over hours. So $325 for 3 hours, and we want to know how much it costs for 4 hours. So it cost $433.33 for 4 hours. I went ahead and set up my proportion and cross multiplied. Then I took that and I multiplied by 7%, which would be 0.07. So my tax was $30.33. So if I were to add the $433 and the $30.33, it would cost $463.66 for 4 hours with the limo and 7% tax. If I wanted to tip $20, I'm just going to take that total and I'm just going to add $20 to it. Yes, there are other ways to do this. As I started to say, to begin example 4, you can find the unit rate. So I could have figured out how much it costs per hour and then multiply that cost per hour, that unit rate, times 4, and then did the same thing I did here. Figure out what the tax is and add it to the total. Same idea, just a different way to go about it. So example 4 can be tricky, so we're just going to break it into manageable pieces, and then we should be able to end up and get the correct solution. Example 5 says, I want you to work with someone around you. So this one's a little bit different because it's talking about the discount. So go ahead, read through it, answer the question the best that you can. But I'm not too worried, and I'm not going to go in depth about this one at all because we actually are going to see this in tomorrow's notes on discounts. This is just trying to see if you know anything about discounts or how you might even solve. Think of it more as a preview to tomorrow's lesson. So today we focused on finding the tax of something. So you take whatever the cost is times your percent, which we're turning into a decimal, taking our percent, dividing by 100, and then we're adding that tax to whatever our original price was. That gives us our total. Yes, when you go purchase something, taxes already accounted for in your cashier when they tell you the total, but sometimes it's nice to know what the tax is before you get there. So if you have questions, make sure you reach out and let